Hey guys, welcome back. So this is going to be something a little bit different than our regular scheduled programming. It's not going to be a late update. This is just going to be a project update on the GP38 here that I've been working on over the last couple of years, or more about a year or so. Um, so I've made some really good headway on this guy. The the diamond tread walkway is pretty much on the whole way. I've got the cab antenna on the top here, as well as I've got the headlights installed there for at least the aluminum tubing there. Got to do some work on the back end here. Got to drill out the headlight, sand down the class lights here, and then do the patch out that you would normally see on the locomotive here. Door sticking out a little bit there, but I can fix that later on. But the biggest achievement here in the last little while was actually getting the majority of the framework done. So one of the biggest things I had to do was I filed down and removed the typical stubs that you would see on an old blue box GP38, much like this frame here. Now, for those of you who don't know, the coupler would mount from the top down. Oop, there we go. And it would just clip on there, and you could use whatever coupler you wanted, but it left for a big open gap on the underside of the frame. So what I've done is I've closed that gap up. I used the Details West pilot buffers. These are for the SD40, but they work just fine for the GP38. And I was actually able to close off that gap because now I have some aluminum blocks, sorry for the movement there, where I can mount a coupler for, which I'll just show you that real quick. Alright, so there we go. Screws are in on both ends, and just like most locomotives now, can pick it up from the shell, and it's not going to drop out. Obviously I've got that big gap now. That I'll just close off with some styrene. Plus, once the motor is in there and I get the compressors mounted back in there. So I've got some Details West ones I'm going to mount in. They are pretty much all ready to go. I just got to finish up all the other underbody plumbing. One of the other things I do need to do, or I did end up doing, is I cut the fuel tank short, as the real thing is, and as I discovered, there are quite a lot of air pockets in these GP38 frames. Possibly all Athearn Blue Box frames, but nothing a bit of styrene can't cover up. One other thing I had to do on this, guys, I had to close some of the holes on the front end of the pilot from the previous plow that was mounted. Now I've got the new one that I'm going to put on here. I've got a couple of other 3D printed ones, which I was going to use, but this guy's a little bit, it's actually exactly what I need. I just need to drill out the top side here just for the grab irons. One of the things that's been a really challenge with this, has been a really big challenge with this unit, is not only the ditch lights and such on this unit, but also the air conditioner. So when I first started doing research into this locomotive, it had a low profile air conditioner mounted to the roof, but the fan was offset to the right, the fan on the top, which I'll just show you here. This fan on the very top was actually offset a little bit to the left. And then after looking at later photos, when a lot of the antennas had been added, so when this antenna added, there's a fire and cracker antenna as well as a couple of GPS domes on the top. They changed up the air conditioner, so I had to go to a different style, and thankfully this is that style. And this is actually 3D printed. Sorry about that. Where I ordered off of CMR, but I had to get it off their eBay page because for some reason their direct website wouldn't let me ship to my house, even though I had many times in the past, because I've also got the rear mounted ditch lights, as well as the plows and the spare knuckles that you saw earlier. They're all kind of in this, oops, sorry guys, they're all in this package here. These are all from CMR. You can get them off their eBay page, so if you can't get them off the website, but they actually make really accurate, nicely detailed components for CN units. And it's kind of surprising that no one else, like Details West or anybody else, even Miniatures by Eric, don't make this a rooftop air conditioner, because it is very much a excuse me, it is very fairly common, because I know the Illinois Centrals, Grand Trunk and Westerns, and Canadian Nationals all use a similar style. I have an identical one on the top of my Illinois Central SD70, the CN repaint, which I'll just grab real quick. So, as you can see, the Illinois Central here, or technically the CN Illinois Central SD70, has the fan here, but it's offset to the left side. And that's what this unit originally had, but since I'm trying to model this as closely as I can, I decided I was going to source out a new air conditioner for the front, and thankfully I was able to find one. It was a definite challenge at first, because Google is not exactly the most responsive when it comes to finding Canadian National specific detail parts. Now I do have a few more parts on order to finish up this guy. And thankfully I got the Canon fans when I did, because right now there is a shortage on those fans. They had a press issue, so they can't make the parts, and they're trying to resolve it. But I've got a few more parts just off to the side here that I'm going to be installing soon. And if some of you aficionados might know, or just take the nose off there, the couplers are actually inset a little too far. So I'm going to have to actually use longer ones. I'm going to try out a KD number 149, which is overset compared to a regular KD number 5. So hopefully they stick out a little further. I don't exactly need the rear coupler to stick out any further, but this guy should do the trick. And I know it's also dropped down a little bit, so we'll give this guy a shot, see how it works out, and hopefully this will do the job there. Got plenty of other parts to install, so hopefully in the next little while I'll get this guy all finished up. And once the parts come on in, because the last couple of parts I needed to find were the correct horn, which was mounted very far back here, and I couldn't find very good images of it. Then a friend of mine helped me source out the horn, and as well as got all the detail parts done on the tank. One of the other things I do need to do is I do need to shorten a little bit on the rear of the fuel tank, just about there, because on the back of these guys they do have a waste retention tank, so it's going to take up a little bit of room, and I don't want to have the truck interfere with it. But as per the trucks, these are not the right style for CN 4900. 4900 actually has the brake cylinder on the front here as well as the rear. Now I can probably pop off this guy here and just pop on a new brake cylinder here all the way around, because I know I can order those parts, and that might just be the way I go there. Now one of the things I am planning to do with this guy, other than doing sound, is I'm actually going to swap in a Athearn Genesis motor. And that was something I did do with my GP9RM, which I unfortunately have run into a couple of hiccups with that unit. The decoder decided it was going to stop working. I think I installed too big of a speaker on that unit. It's a dual speaker, and I don't know if this is a very old Tsunami decoder, Tsunami 1, where I'd put a dual 8 ohm speaker, so technically 16 ohm load on the older decoder, and I think I fried it. But I did want to put an ESU decoder in it, which I know ESU decoders can handle a dual speaker. I think they can handle up to I think it's 24 ohms or something like that. Don't quote me on that. If you blow your decoder, it's not on me. But I know they can happily handle two dual speakers. Sorry, a singular dual speaker. But other than that, hopefully in the next little while we get this finished up and we can kind of move on to the next project. And probably in the next little while I will do a layout update because I know it's been a while. But one last little thing, if you guys had noticed, one of the fun things I had to do, because this is on the real unit, is the broom holder for the switching. Sorry, for the switch stands. This was actually drilled out of some 30 thousandths styrene tubing. So I just drilled that out with a number 80 bit and then made my own broom. So that just drops right on in, and that's kind of just sits there happily. I've dropped this nose a number of times. Still got a little bit of sanding to do because you kind of see some of the shadows on the top of the nose there, as well as I got to patch out these lights. So the old style class lights on the side there. But other than that, I'm going to leave this off till the very end because I want to. It'll be much easier to paint this nose off the locomotive than on, and then much less masking to do. Because I know on the front end here, like the whole front end is red, but your steps as usual are black. And I'm debating about doing the same with the walkway tread because they're also black all the way around. So overall, it'll just make my life easier for painting this. And I do have, as some of you may have seen in the past, I do use a spray paint for my full projects like this. I have used in the past, I'll pull it out here, the Vallejo Hobby Paint. This is Bloody Red. Works very well for Cyan Red Orange. But I'm also going to be trying a black spray paint from the same brand. Hopefully that'll give me the same results. But anyway, that's all the time I got. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more.